Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the OK Grognard Show. It is Friday, September 25th, 2020, 9:30 a.m. Central in beautiful Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. It's Friday, so we're building adventures today. You know, we've spent the last four out of five anyway, building adventures days, looking at the first edition AD&D DMG Appendix C. No, Appendix A, right? Random Dungeons? Is that C or A? Now I'm all confused. That's just my way. Well, we'll check, won't we? Let's have a little look-see here. I need to bring that up on my other screen here. We will just take this out here. Pull this here, go to Appendix A. Yes, random dungeon generation is Appendix A. Knucklehead. Of course, Appendix C is random monster encounters, which includes filling in levels. B, random wilderness terrain. So that's outdoor actual terrain. D, where are we at on D? Random generation of creatures from the lower planes. E, well, you know what? Table of contents spell those out, don't they? There we go. Appendices. There we go. Generation of creatures from the lower planes. Alphabetical recapitulation of monsters, which gives you a big table with, as we saw, all of those creatures, just their main information that you would need while putting together something, whether it's an encounter on the fly or building out a dungeon, the kind of information you probably want to transfer into the notes of the dungeon you're creating. Things to have handy so you don't have to dig them up. Gambling. Appendix F. Traps. G. H. Tricks. We looked at those a couple of weeks ago. We skipped gambling. Dungeon dressing. We looked up during settings. A Tuesday. As we did herbs, spices, and medicinal vegetables. Was it this week? I think it was. Describing magical substances. We haven't gotten to that yet, nor conjured animals or summoned monsters. Appendix N, inspirational and educational reading. That's going to have to be a GM review thing one of these weeks. I'm going to discuss some of the things from that I've read that I've really enjoyed. And I haven't read all of Appendix N. That may surprise some people. I'm some of the authors, not my cup of tea. Doesn't mean they're not good. Just means I couldn't personally get into them. And we can go over that on a review day, on a Saturday show. Encumbrance of standard items. That's a breakdown. You know, so this might be Appendix O. Maybe that should be Appendix 0. I'm not a big fan of getting too invested in encumbrance and having an entire appendix devoted to them always left me a little cold. Creating a party on the spur of a moment. Well, I'll tell you something. If you did that a whole bunch of times, you could probably do it during a game in a fairly short time. And that is to say, maybe you tell everybody to take a break, go get sodas, go get a snack, hit the restroom, and come on back. And in that time, you might be able to get a good start on it and then finish it up when they return. But it's a pile of tables. It takes a little time, and you've got to transfer that information If you have that all in a PDF where you can copy and paste that information out, maybe it takes even a little less time. It's still pretty time consuming. So, spur of the moment, I know there'll be some people that say, I'll do it all the time. Yeah, you know what? People sit and watch you do it and keep their mouths shut, but it takes time. And anytime you take time during a game to do something that intensive, then you haven't done your homework. You haven't prepped, and that's the sort of thing. If I rolled up that there was going to be a party of 4 to 8 individuals of a higher level, let's say mid to high level, I would re-roll during a game. I know that's a GMing tip sort of thing that should come yesterday on Thursdays, but that's just my opinion. I would not take the time away from 4, 6, 8, possibly 10 players sitting around the table waiting on the off chance that it would be worth their while to have waited. Because I don't think so. And I wouldn't enjoy it, so I wouldn't do it to players. Anywho, random generation and then random monster encounters and tricks and traps are pretty much the meat of what we use when we do this. And so, boom, boom, boom. Let's go. And if we use, for instance, a Dyson Logos map, and in this case I've got this over here, and what we'll do is we'll switch back to this screen here. If we were to use a map like this from Dyson Logos, and I'm saying that repeatedly to make sure we're covered on the Creative Commons license. I don't want anybody to mistake this. I'll put it in the show notes too that it belongs to him. We'll add a link to his website as well, dodecahedron, right? You know what? I used to have that as a regular thing. Yeah, there we go. Dyson Logos website. You know, we got his Patreon too. We're going to stick them both up in there because that's all part of it. And I think it's good to have them both so people can decide if they want to go straight into. There we go. All right. Got that going. Nice. So we got this map here. What do we got? We've got a small river, right? That's about 10, 15 feet at its widest. Maybe 20 with the bulge there. I don't know. What would you say direction of flow? My impression would be that it's flowing left to right. Doesn't have to be necessarily. The squiggles might suggest the opposite. Notice how this one over here on the left, I don't know if you can see by the opening, they taper off to the right and they're thicker on the left. Does that suggest it's flowing to the right? It does to me. Some might suggest the other way. Well, let's say it's flowing to the right. We got to pick something, right? Oh yeah, there's the DL15 logo. So we did this one in 2015. So we've got one bridge directly over, and further along, we've got a higher up, I would say, natural bridge over top of it. The question is this open or not? Well, it would be a straight line with walls as thick as the cave, I would think, if this was just a passageway that went over top. The thinner lines suggest it's open to the river, or say the tunnel through which the river flows. So I would have to suggest that it's way above as opposed to this other, which is just above, which makes it tougher to get to. A line of defense, perhaps. Notice above that, there's that rungs of a ladder and the suggestion of height. So this climbs up from the lower level. And on the opposite side, we've got the stairway that comes up to this room on this side of the arch bridge. On the south side of the arch bridge. Notice this stairway goes down. Also, the one to the right into this room. So that's worth noting. So if you were to come in this way, past these pillars on the left, Ultramaga 71. Be a nice map, add a bit of color to it, great map. Yeah, that's Dyson Logos map. You can do all sorts of things with it. You can even publish with it. Come through these pillars and you've got a double doors and then three, I think those are the universal icons for statues. Hey, what do you think, Ultra Magnus 71? I think this river flows to the right, from left to right. That was the impression I got. What about you? I want to say, notice these sections on either side of the river where you can walk along, possibly. They are. Notice on the north side, you have some space between the bridge and the river, but on this next opening, the river flows right up against it, so you really can't walk out this opening unless you're getting into the river. This would probably be a place where you could have a boat launch. You keep the boats inside this little chasm. Up the rungs, the ladder rungs to the north center here, you've then got another little stairway going up. And notice this thin line suggests that this is open still here. So this goes up to a platform. There are a couple of pillars and a door. And the door goes back into another room where there are a number of items to the south. A couple of, I don't know, maybe braziers and an altar to the north. Is that what that looks like? So where do people live in here? Well, I think the suggestion is probably down the stairs to the right. You don't want to have to defend from the downward side of a stairway, but I think it's pretty obvious that no other place in here easily accommodates living quarters. You've got this statuary to the left with the little pillar entranceway. Suggests this is important for something. And then off to the right, this room's set up like a altar room, and there's a sort of processional that leads up to it outside with this platform. So I don't think I'd want to call this, any of this area, like living quarters. So I go back to the bottom right. I think you could have a number of beds or even bunk beds in here with what's its name? Foot lockers. You certainly, I mean, the other idea is that maybe that's a storage room, but why would you have it so far away from where you might unload stuff, like this launch on the north passage, on the north cavern here? Why would you want to carry it across this bridge and up this stairs and down another stairs to go put this stuff away? That makes no sense. Now, sure, it's more secure, but is that the most important thing? If you have enough people here to go through that kind of storage, I would agree, says Ultramagnet71. Left to right. There are two sections of steps going down to the left. One set going to statues, opposite is going down. Yep. Yeah, I'm afraid you came to the party just a little bit late. We went over most of those features. Middle bridge would be the main level. Okay, all right. You want to talk in terms of what is the. Well, I don't know that that would be the main level. Main level. What does main suggest to you? It can be used in many ways. Absolutely. And that's what we're discussing, the many ways. The the question then is, we have three levels essentially here. We've got the cavern to the north, which is on the same level as the statue building to the southwest. And I'm just going to give north to up. Um, with the pillared room hallway entering. So that's one level. There is a second level, which is up the ladder before you go up to the platform. And then on this side, just the one cavernous room with the stairway going down either west or southeast. That is a second level. And then there's a third level, really, this platform, as well as the what I'm calling a temple or altar room to the right. So we really do have three levels here. And main level suggests it's the most used primary level to be staying. And I think the main level is really the lowest level. In fact, this room to the south, to the center right, which I was saying could be a barracks, is actually on the lower level, right? Along with the statue room and the cavern to the north. They're all on a comparable level. And I would suggest that the barracks room and the northern cavern room, which is possibly where goods are unloaded, supplies. It's definitely the entryway to the northern half of the complex. I would suggest that this room gets a lot more use than much of the rest of the place. So we might have to say the main level is the lower level, yeah? Maybe? The middle bridge, however, or upper bridge, let's call it, it's in the middle of the map, yeah, goes between a cavern that is a sort of a transitional space between the stairs down to the statuary room, stairs down to the, I'm going to keep calling it a barracks, and the bridge across to the lower area outside the temple. So this is sort of a gathering space, I guess it could be considered. Would seem you might have some minor ceremonies out here. This might be a processional. Only those that have undergone some sort of a ritual cleansing on the platform, or perhaps have taken some sort of oath, can be allowed to go beyond the door into the temple itself. Got to figure out some way that it makes sense to have that platform out there and to have a reason for it to be raised up. If we assume, and I think we can, that natural caverns are where they are, but that anything that is worked stone has to have been chosen to be worked to build for some purpose, then we have to figure that these have a definite purpose and reason for being the way they are. Do they randomly work stone until they just get any kind of shape of room? and then that's the way it is. Well, let's take a look at that statue area off to the lower left. It's obviously been carved out. It specifically has double doors entering it. It specifically has a door leading off to the east, which is directly to a stairway. And, well, it's got three statues in it, and they've purposefully made alcoves for each one of them. Now, one of the things we can consider is if there's a hierarchy to the statues. And I would have to say, if there is, there's three possibilities: left to right, right to left, or the center one is the most important. Now, you could randomly roll and then just take your cue from the dice, certainly. But that is the consideration to be made in regard to, or all equal. But then you'd have to have a reason when they're all equal for why they are arranged in the way in which they are. Now, if your society that put this together reads from left to right, like we do in English, they might naturally put them in a hierarchy from left to right, or alphabetically from left to right if they're all equal, or based on their age when they came to being, when they began. Maybe they are natural individuals, heroes who are from throughout the times of the history of this culture. So you might put the one that is the oldest off to the left, then center, then right. Or the most important, as we said. If the center one needs to stand out, then the center one might be the most important. Good morning, Luxfire. So, you've got a number of ways of looking at these statues and deciding how they're going to be ranked, if indeed they're going to be ranked at all. So we've talked a little bit about the statuary room. We've talked a little bit about the platform room. We've kind of designated our barracks into the lower right. We've talked about the center room to the south of the river as being a sort of transitional room. And we talked about the upper center cavern as being a sort of a loading and unloading zone for supplies, maybe also people that are coming to this underground temple to worship or to pay their respects, or perhaps even to come to work. Maybe they don't actually, maybe not everybody who works here over time actually lives in this space. Or maybe some temporary workers are relegated to sleeping in this cavern here, and they just set up sort of a makeshift tents or bedrolls or something to the of that type. Yeah, that's right, Luxfire. It's a Dyson Logos map, indeed, from 2015, according to the little banner in the lower right there, right? So not his oldest, not his newest, though. I think he's been doing this like 12 or 15 years, I think he mentioned once, as far as putting stuff out on the internet. So that's about halfway there. So we talked about there being a sort of processional toward the upper right on that platform area, some sort of way of distinguishing who is allowed within the temple itself. But what about the temple? And we're calling it a temple. It doesn't necessarily have to be. But if we look in the upper area, the northern area, using my phone, a little small for my eyes, absolutely. Well, the phone is definitely going to be tough to use for watching streaming videos with maps and textual material. No doubt about it. Sorry about that. I guess I'm not really geared toward that format. Um, but I try to describe stuff in such a way that it's understood. And to that end, I guess I can zoom in a bit. How's that look? So in the northern end of this area, we've got, well, I think what appears to be an altar, and these are not pillars per se, I don't believe, but are rather maybe braziers, stone braziers, or maybe a couple of fonts. Yeah, does that work pretty well? Good. And they could be fonts. I don't, with some sort of quote unquote holy water or unholy water. We haven't determined whether this is a good temple or an evil temple. Now, what's got me vexed, if we're calling that a temple, is what do we have to the south? Are these supplies for the temple? Are these benches and boxes to sit on for those awaiting their chance to go up to the altar for whatever reason? Is this a seating area or is it a supply zone? That's a question, I think, that needs some answering. Well, I'll tell you what, we've kind of gone over a bunch of suggestions. Oh, and I should say, along the river to the eastern side, to the right, notice that there are some places where we've got some stuff laying about. We could do something with that too. Doesn't really have to be supplies. That could be refuse. It could be stuff that was abandoned. I think that's worth noting as a possibility. But we will get further along with all of this next week. I have set up to do the show next week on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday during virtual Greyhawk Con. Because of the way their schedule works, we will be starting at 9 a.m. Central instead of 9:30 Central and running for an hour. So for those of you who wind up coming in late, you're going to be even later. And that's fine. You always can check these out later on YouTube or even on Twitch for a couple of weeks before they get culled by the system. But just a fair warning, heads up, these will actually be set up as seminar events during virtual Greyhawk Con, 9 a.m. Central, 10 a.m. Eastern, New York time, their time, Jay's time. And we'll be doing a maps dealio, and we'll be doing... There we go. We'll be doing building adventures on Friday. We'll be doing GM reviews on Saturday. And on Sunday, we'll do a rules retrospective. Just as per normal, just a half hour earlier and for a full hour instead of just a half hour on each of those days, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So if you're free, come join us. If you want to, you probably have some fun if you sign up for the convention itself. I think there's a $3 charge, maybe plus a fee or a tax or whatever, so $3 and some change, and it goes to a charity. So they're not trying to make money off of this convention. It's a charitable thing. So yeah, definitely check out Virtual Greyhawk Con. There'll be a link in the show notes, and maybe join up. I know, right? Ultra Magnus? Yeah. He says seminars, or she, I don't know. Seminars are the gold nuggets of conventions. Yeah, no doubt. Bill Petrosky does some great ones. I saw one yesterday that he did out of Hawaii Con. I've seen him before a number of times. I love when I jump in on the Alyssa Faden map tutorials and any number of other artists when you get to watch them work. And I think it's true, too, that when you get GMing tips or you delve deeper into some of the rules or the working up of adventures and that sort of thing, it can be really enjoyable. And it's also very stimulating. It gets your get your brain working, and then you jump off and do your own stuff too, right? But it's good to get a jump start. Well, I want to thank everybody for coming out today. If you're in the stream chat, please do be sure to follow the channel and chime in on the stream chat when you're here, because that gets you on the list. We do a weekly giveaway. We just ask people to chime in after they've followed so that we can be sure they're not bots. So please do that. And we will put you on the list and do some little giveaway. I think a virtual game hole con, that's the convention coming up in November, is in the offing for this week. So check that out. And if you're catching up with this on YouTube, thank you also for that. I want to say for the rest of the schedule, of course, tomorrow, GM reviews. We've got rules retrospective on Sunday, weekly news and announcements on Monday, cartography and world building Tuesday, campaign discussion on Wednesday, GMing tips Thursday, then back around the horn to building adventures on Friday. If you are on YouTube, do me a big favor and go ahead and subscribe. Give us a thumbs up on the video you're watching and maybe make a comment. You can always use some constructive criticism. Helps us make the show better, and I appreciate that. This has been the OK Grognard Show from beautiful Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. Bye-bye.